It's time for us to talk tech, and you know we have the right person for that. Kobe Spike Nkrumah will join me. Do you know how to set default apps on your computer? If you don't, Kobe is here and he will tell us how to set it. Hello, Kobe.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm fabulous.
So how do you set default apps on your computer?
Okay, so some people will probably be wondering, default apps, why?
What are they?
What are they? So on your computer, you have applications that handle everything. And in our previous episodes, I've taught people how to do so many things with different apps.
Yeah.
Now you'd want to know, how do I make this app the default go-to app for everything? So for instance, I have a picture here. When I open this picture, it's supposed to open with a certain application. Now, when you open that picture, it opens with a Photos app. Now, let's say I want to use a different app other than Photos. There are so many ways you can do this. You can right-click on the file, go to Properties, and then you'd see what kind of file it is. So right now you can see it's a JPG file, and it opens with Photos. You can change that, and then choose which other app you'd like. So you have other options here like Paint.
Okay.
But if you open a photo with Paint, that means you want to edit it. And then we have Paint 3D, and then there's also the option to look for an app in the store besides what you already have. So maybe you want another app in the store that you want to use to do this. You just go into the store to do that. Now, this is the complicated way of doing things, and I'm sure a lot of people will get lost. So rather than doing that, you go into your settings, and the settings app you can get from your start. Once you go to your start and you go to settings, you'll see under settings, you'll see apps. Now, when you go to the apps menu, the first thing you see is apps and features, and then there's default apps. So when you go into default apps, you'll see choose default apps. Now, the default apps, you have email, which is handled by mail. Now, if you want to change that, you tap on it and you choose an app that you prefer to use. So maybe you want to use your mail in your browser because you always sign into your mail in your browser. You choose your Google Chrome browser as your default. Maps, when you want to find where you're going and all that, you can have a different Maps application. You'd be surprised. Just go into the App Store and you'd find another option. Now, music. I use a different music player for music. Some people use VLC Media Player. Some people use Windows Media Player. So you can choose. If I choose Windows Media Player, that is set as default. Anytime I open a music file, it will automatically open with Windows Media Player. Now, photos, as I showed you earlier, you can also choose another one to run it, or videos. And then the most common one that everyone is always changing, the default browser. The default browser by default is Microsoft Edge. They tell you it's recommended for Windows 10. But not everybody likes Microsoft Edge. I don't. The only thing I use Microsoft Edge for is to download Google Chrome. So yeah, Google Chrome is the preferred browser. So that's how you do it. And if you make any mistake and you want to revert, you always have the reset to Microsoft's recommended default. You hit that and it will reset. You can also choose default apps by file type, like I mentioned, and then you can choose default apps by protocol. Now, protocols are quite complicated. If you're not an advanced user, don't go playing with that. So there are certain protocols. When you say a protocol, for instance, there are certain links when you click on, it takes you into a certain application. For instance, if you click on an email, you know it takes you into the mail app to send an email. That's a protocol. So if you want to change that protocol, so when you click on an email, maybe it takes you to a notepad. So you save the email, you click on that, you can change those protocols. But don't do it if you don't know how to handle it. Okay.
Well, is setting your default apps peculiar to only Windows 10?
No, you can do it for all the other application Windows OSs like the 8 and then the 8.1. But most of them have been phased out with time because Microsoft wants everyone to use Windows 10. If you're using any OS older than Windows 10, you should upgrade because you're not safe. That is a fact.
Okay.
There are a lot of exploits out there.
But I've heard some of my friends say they've tried setting to default apps, like their default apps, and then when they reboot their PC, it goes back to the old one.
Problem with
so how do you prevent it from going back?
There might be a problem with the installation of the app that you have on your computer. You need to reinstall it or go through the complex way like I showed you. Right-click on the file and go to the properties and then check to see over there if that change has been made over there. If it's still reverted, then you might want to call your IT guy.
Okay.
Like me.
Like you. Okay. Thank you very much, Kobe Spike Nkrumah, for that enlightenment. You just taught us how to set our default app.